So thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join us for today's HR Fundamentals. Today's topic is PageUp hiring. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Anand. I'm one of the talent acquisition specialists here at the Human Resources Department. I'll be the facilitator for today's presentation. You'll also get a chance to hear from other talent acquisition specialists as we go through today's various hiring topics. Before we begin, just want to go over some housekeeping items that we want to go over. As you may have noticed, this presentation is being recorded for references for you guys to refer to later. So feel free to turn off your video cameras. If during the presentation you happen to have a question you wish to ask, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom to alert us that you would like to unmute to ask a question. We will then allow you to unmute and ask your question at an appropriate time. You may also use the chat feature to ask your question. Only the host will get to see your chat. And again, we will address it at an appropriate time throughout the presentation. We will also have time at the end of the presentation for you guys to ask questions. If we don't answer your question right away, please don't assume we're ignoring you. We just find that this method helps with the flow of the presentation. Sometimes questions get answered later on in the presentation. We will be sending out a copy of the slide deck for you guys to have on hand after the presentation. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So here's a quick overview of the agenda for today. Topics that we will be going over include things such as meeting the team, what is a DRC, before you begin, recruitment strategies, creating a requisition, online postings, narrowing down the pool, verbal offer, onboarding, and questions and answers. This shouldn't take longer than an hour to get through today's topics. So here is a quick look at our team right now. You have me, Lauren, Andrea as the talent acquisition specialists, and Christina Uria is our supervisor. Each TA here is assigned certain departments that we are responsible to help conduct searches for and who you, the DRC, will interact with throughout your searches. For example, I work with the divisions of College of Ed, Extended Studies, and Finance/Operation divisions. If you're not sure which TA you're meant to communicate with, you can visit our contact page where all of our assigned departments are listed, or you can reach out to us directly and we will work with getting you connected with the TA that you are going to work with. Alrighty, let's review what a DRC is. So a DRC stands for Department Recruitment Coordinator. Boise State has over 3,000 benefit-eligible employees, while the average university has around 1,500 employees. This means that recruitment plays a really important role here. All of these employees are spread out over throughout different departments on campus, and there's turnover. People get promoted, and new positions get created. We also hire students, temporaries, employees. Additionally, each department has specific wants and needs when it comes to hiring. As a DRC, you play a crucial role in making sure the supervisor can find the right candidate and make sure all the correct steps are taken in order for your hire to be completed. Another term that can be used to describe a DRC is a subject matter expert, a person with special knowledge, skills, and sometimes authority in a particular area. Your role as the liaison between the hiring manager and HR really ties everything together. By using PageUp, our applicant tracking system, you help us process everything needed for your new hire. In order to assist you in this process, we have an abundance of resources on our website, one of them being our DRC step flow narrative. This shows you the initial steps you want to take for the search, where you're at in the search, and what actions need to be taken to complete each step of the recruitment process. This is a great resource to utilize, and it is linked in the slides, which will be shared with you after the presentation. To better aid DRCs and managers in understanding the search process, we have narrowed it down to 6 hiring stages: the before you begin, recruitment strategy, online posting, narrow down the candidate pool, confirm your selection, and offer and acceptance/onboarding. Throughout this training, we will be going over each one of these stages and giving you insight into what needs to be considered and done for each stage. These stages are also on our talent acquisition website, and you are able to click on each number to see what needs to be done in each stage, along with guides and written instructions for each step. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into phase one of the search process, which we call the pre-recruitment steps, or the before you begin. This is pretty straightforward and to the point, and usually happens before we, the talent acquisition specialists, get involved in the search. So we have a decision tree that kind of helps determine what steps need to be taken in order to complete this phase of the search. The first thing that needs to be asked is, has leadership approved this search? For some, this is a pretty straightforward answer, especially if someone leaves a critical role and it needs to be refilled right away. However, this should sometimes be considered as well for for positions that are straight refills, as leadership sometimes wants to repurpose roles into a new one instead of doing a straight refill. Once we are sure that leadership has approved it, our next step depends on whether the position is a new one or it needs to be a straight refill. If it's a refill and no changes need to be made, we can easily move on to stage 2 of the search. If there are changes that need to be made, then a position action request form needs to be submitted. This form is overseen by our compensation team and the budget office. They make sure that the changes that are being requested are okay to do so. Once approved, we can move forward with stage 2 of the search process. The same goes for new searches. Once the new position is approved via the position action request form and the job description is uploaded into our applicant tracking system, aka PageUp, we can move forward with step 2 of the search. Alrighty, once we have that step out of the way, we can move forward by going over the recruitment strategy phase of the search. This is a crucial phase of the search process as it prepares and sets things up for success for stages later on in the search. Recruitment strategies are unique on so many levels, and the same strategy that is used for a professional search is not the same one that you would use for a classified search or even a faculty one at that. Strategies can also depend on the internal processes and the type of position that we're recruiting for. To help guide you through this phase, we've have some things for you guys to consider. So one of the first things that need to be decided is who will be on the search committee. This is usually decided by the chair/supervisor. We recommend having at least 3 members. Having an odd number of people on a committee helps promote fairness, and consider using members outside of your department to get an outsider's perspective. The next thing to consider is the closing date of the posting. While professional postings can be open to the field, we usually don't recommend that, since postings can end up becoming old and stale on our websites. Instead, we recommend reposting it after the job has closed. We must post the job for at least 5 business days. We recommend posting 2 weeks at a time. Classified postings require to have a closing date. Wage is another thing to consider on postings. It is required for all of our classified posting due to Idaho statutes. We recommend posting at least the range for all of our postings. Lastly, the supervisor should envision what the best candidate would look like. We recommend using a rating rubric to help rank candidates based on qualifications we think is best to grade candidates by. If you guys do not have one on hand, contact your talent acquisition specialist. We can give you a basic template to use. To help search committees become prepared for the search, we have an online course called Search Committee Training. This goes over a variety of topics to prepare members for. The main points this training hits on is recruitment, evaluation, and selection. We have an online guide linked below on how to register for the online training so that search committee members can take it on Bronco Learn. Again, this slide deck will be shared, so you guys will have the link to all this. Every member must complete the training at least once per Boise State policy. They may retake the course if they feel like they need a refresher. In fact, we encourage it. What you may have noticed is that this is a brand new training that we just rolled out. Before you guys start raising your hands and typing in the chat, Everyone will need to take this new training course, even if they just took the old one recently. We know this can be cumbersome news for some, but we hope that this new training has some information that will help search committee members better than our old one did. Some new topics that this training covers is things like how to plan, prepare for, and work together as an effective search committee, how to optimize posting content so that engages and attracts for a larger applicant pool, how to utilize several recruitment strategies and methods to attract pools, more in-depth explanations of compliance requirements, documentation methods, and rating tools. Since everyone is now required to take it again, we will work together to make sure that everyone has taken it before the search starts. At the latest, we will want them to complete it, the training before the search committee meets or before the job posting has gone out. While we are on this topic, another thing we want to let you guys know about is Senate Bill 1274. We wanted to make sure you guys are aware of it as it has recently passed and it does affect the recruitment strategy. This bill was signed March 20th and it went into effect July 1st of this year. To give you a quick rundown about what this bill is, it makes it illegal for us to, one, require applications to include a written diversity statement, and two, ask questions about their views, contributions, or experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other related topics. The only exception here is that we can ask candidates to disclose or discuss the content of their scholarly research or creative work. This bill is still very new to us, so if you have questions or concerns about it, please reach out to your acquisition specialist to make sure we are addressing it directly and properly for you. Again, the link to this bill is included in the slide, which again, you guys will have access to. Alrighty, now that we have all that out of the way, the next step is to submit a requisition in PageUp. For those of you that don't know, I've been talking about PageUp. That is our applicant tracking system. This is where the DRC will submit requisitions that include details to start a search. It will also be where candidates will be reviewed by search committee members later on, and it is where the talent acquisition specialist will use to post a job and create an offer later on in the search. We have a guide that goes step by step on how to create a requisition in PageUp so that we can post a job on our end. However, let's go over some key items in regarding to creating a requisition. So image number one goes over one of the first steps in creating a requisition, and that is finding the job description. So job descriptions are already preloaded into PageUp. To start a requisition, you first have to find the job description you want to use. When looking for a job description to start the requisition, people can sometimes have a hard time finding the right one. The best way to look up a job description in PageUp is to use the job code number. You'll want to enter the job code number in the roll number field. If for some reason you still cannot find the job description, please contact your talent acquisition specialist. We might need to check with compensation and look at the back end of what's going on in PageUp. Image number two goes over business titles. If the supervisors want to use another title besides the one associated to the job description, you can change it here in the job title field of the requisition. Think of this as the business title. For example, if you're using an admin assistant 2 job description, but your department calls them admin specialist, this is where you will want to enter that business title. Image number 3 goes over PCNs and how to add them in PageUp. For those of you that don't know, PCN stands for Position Control Number. This shows the number of openings there is for the search. It can be confusing to understand on how to add PCNs, but the quick tip is to add a slot for a PCN. You will want to use the bottom right of the image to add a new or refillable vacant PCN. If, for example, you have one new PCN, you want to enter one next to the new field and then click on add more to the bottom right. That will add a slot where you can add the new PCN that you want to use. Or let's say you have 2 new PCNs, you will want to just click enter 2 in either the new or refill field and click add more to add a slot to add your vacant PCN. Image number 4 goes over compensation and salary related items. If a position is classified, it is usually hourly. If it is professional, it is usually salary. If a position is less than 12 months, but they get paid over 12 months, you will want to use one of the prorated salary options. Further down in this section, you will enter the funding source. Once you enter the funding source, you will need to enter how much of the funding source funds the position's wage. If there is only one funding source, it's pretty straightforward. You just want to enter 100%. If there are two, you will want to enter the distribution to equal 100. So it could be 50-50 or 75-25, for example. Make sure you're not entering percentage sign symbols in the distribution field, as this can later result in errors when they get exported out of the system. Lastly, image number 5 goes over search committee members. It is important to enter all search committee members in this part of the requisition. If they are not all listed, including the chair of the search, they do not have access to view applications as they come through. If anybody has any questions, so I will go ahead and move on. The last part of creating the requisition is the most important part. This is where the DRC will set up users and the approval workflow to make sure everyone reviews the information so that we can get the job posted for you guys. At the top, you have the option to enter a fund manager. Think of this person as someone who handles finances for your department and can also be the business manager. Under the fund manager field will be the initiator. This will be pre-filled as the person who started the requisition. Under the initiator field is the approval process. Depending on the type of hire, this will determine what we want to select. If it is a standard type of hire, you will select standard hire. If this is a grant funded position, you will want to select grant hire requisition. If it is a faculty position, you will want to select faculty hire requisition. Once an approval process has been selected, you will enter the approvers who will look over the requisition and approve it. The DRC will want to enter the supervisor as the first approver. The TA you are working with will be listed as the second approver. The TA will also be auto-filled at the very bottom. Once this has all been completed, it is important that you click on the blue save button. You can always save it as a draft, but the requisition will not go to anyone for approval and nobody will know about it. You will then want to also communicate with your talent acquisition specialist about how long you want the job posting up for, the wage we want to use, and any job description changes that we should be aware of. I'm going to take a quick pause as I saw someone enter something in the chat. Can you add a person to the search party committee after the job has been posted / search has started? Yes, you can add someone to the search committee field even after it's been approved or the posting has gone out. You just want to go back into the requisition and go into that part of the requisition and add them. So good question. Yes, you can add them at any point. Hope that answers your question, Maddie. Alrighty, let's move on to the next slide. So while we are on the topic of users, let's take a quick look at who is involved in the search and how they interact in PageUp. While the TA has the most control in PageUp, being that we are super users, the DRC has the next level of access with being able to create requisitions, move candidates to other statuses in PageUp, and submit offer details. The fund manager has similar permissions to the DRC and can view jobs the same way a DRC can. The search committee member usually can only view applications and the job description. If they have hiring manager positions, they have the ability to approve jobs and offers. It is important to understand that with these different level of permissions, everyone's dashboards and screens can look different. On the left, you will see the view of the DRC / fund manager. They get to see the jobs on the dashboard and have more access to things. On the right is the screen of a search committee member / supervisor. They can go to they need to go into specific areas of PageUp to view the job and applications. So at the DRC or supervisor, if you're helping someone else, remember to share our guides because reviewing things can be different for each person. So that is everything in regards to stage 2. I'm going to pass it off to Lauren, who's going to talk about stage 3.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to jump in here to talk about the online posting process. So, as mentioned previously, when you are submitting a requisition, the last approver in the approval workflow will always be your talent acquisition specialist. When your TA receives your requisition for approval, they will format the job posting in the advertisement text box, which is shown in the top picture on this slide. We will add key details such as the salary information and the minimum qualification screening questions. Then we will set the post to run for the desired duration, which is a 5 business day minimum. I want to highlight this advertising summary field, which is the second picture on this slide. The text that is entered here will be advertised right under your job title on our careers website. It's the applicant's first impression of this position and your department, so it's a great opportunity to grab their attention. We encourage you to take some time to craft an engaging statement to pique applicant interest and maximize traction. So we've reviewed our team's process for crafting job postings, but we also wanted to include a breakdown of where your jobs go once they're posted. So the first column on the left here lists all our default posting sites, which are free for us to post on. Your positions are all posted on these sites automatically once they go live. The second column lists some sites that our jobs are not automatically posted to, and they do have costs associated with them, but they're an additional resource that we have access to. These costs are variable and may have changed, but we wanted to include them because we do have departments that choose to purchase from them to gain added traffic for their postings. Here are some other default sites that your postings will go to. We wanted to draw attention to these specifically because they are marketed to more diverse job boards. And now I'm going to hand things over to Andrea to continue reviewing this step.
Hello, everyone. So everyone on this call probably knows that both classified and professional positions are entirely hired through PageUp, but I wanted to take this opportunity to go over the differences between hiring classified and professional positions. So as a reminder, the rules of classified hiring are defined by statute, so we don't have any flexibility with them. I'm going to go into a little bit more depth with these now. So first and foremost, all of your classified postings must include a closing date and hourly wage. Classified positions are not eligible for visa sponsorship. Screening questions for classified positions are determined by the state. New applications will be processed by your talent acquisition specialist and will be visible to DRCs and search committees within 1 to 2 business days. Applicants for classified positions with double diamond veterans preference and layoff rights must be offered an interview. As you're going through the recruitment process, your talent acquisition specialist will keep you apprised of any candidates you're required to offer an interview to. And then one final update I wanted to mention is that the university is phasing out prorated classified positions. So if you do have any questions about that, HR will work with your department on those options available for these types of positions. In comparison, our professional positions have a few different rules and recommendations. So first and foremost, it's still best practice to include an annual salary and a setting closing date in your job posting. Professional positions are potentially eligible for visa sponsorship. And screening questions for these positions will be added by your talent acquisition specialist based on the minimum qualifications for the position. Applicants who pass these screening questions will be visible to the DRC and search committee in PageUp as soon as an application is submitted. And candidates with veterans preference may also need to be offered an interview. I'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation. Alrighty, now that your position has been posted, I'm going to go over some things to keep in mind when narrowing down your candidate pool. I'll do a deeper dive into a few of these items in this section of the training. So like I mentioned, PageUp will automatically screen all applicants for the basic minimum qualifications based on how they respond to screening questions your talent acquisition specialist adds, or the preset questions from the state for classified positions. This means that only candidates who self-select that they meet the basic minimum qualifications will be available to you for review. I also wanted to share that the talent acquisition team is offering a new service, which is pre-screening candidates for professional positions. This may be helpful in instances where your recruitment has a large applicant pool and your committee would like assistance in narrowing it down. So if this is something you're interested in, please reach out to the talent acquisition specialist assigned to your department. As they come into your applicant pool, candidates who are eligible for veterans preference will be noted with a blue bell icon. You'll see two variations of this, which I'll talk about in a little bit more depth on the next slide. As the DRC, after your search committee has reviewed the applicants and selected individuals to interview, please move them to a to be interviewed status in PageUp. You're then welcome to select interview questions from our interview question bank. If there are specific questions that your team would like to ask that are not in the interview question bank, please send them to your talent acquisition specialist for review and approval before you conduct your interviews. And we're going to talk about the pool review process in a little more depth in a few slides, but you'll also be notified when your talent acquisition specialist reviews your applicant pool. We also wanted to give you an overview of some of the most common PageUp flags you'll see while reviewing applicants. I'm not going to bore you by reading all of these to you word for word, but I would really like to focus on the two options for veterans preference. The top option, which is the single blue bell icon, will have slightly different meanings depending on if it's a faculty or professional position or if it's a classified position. So if you're recruiting for a faculty or professional role and see a single blue bell icon, that candidate must be offered an interview if they're equally qualified to other candidates selected for interviews. Additionally, if there's a veteran candidate with similar qualifications to those selected for the initial interview group, we strongly encourage you to add that veteran candidate to the initial interview pool. For classified positions, this single blue bell icon indicates it's a single diamond veteran candidate. So it's recommended that you offer them an interview, but not required. The next icon that I'd like to highlight is specific to the classified hiring process, and this is the combination blue bell and blue question mark icon. This flag indicates that the individual is a double diamond veteran. So if you're conducting a classified recruitment and you see an individual with this marker in the system, they must be offered an interview. If you or your committee ever have any questions about if veterans preference candidates must be offered an interview, please reach out to your talent acquisition specialist and we're happy to assist. I wanted to touch on one more icon for classified positions only, which is that little red phone icon at the bottom of the screen. If you ever see this icon associated with a candidate in one of your applicant pools, they are a layoff candidate and must be offered an interview per state of Idaho rules. The last thing I wanted to note is that if your committee does not review applicants in PageUp and instead decides to download candidate packets for review outside of the system, these flags are not going to download with the candidate packet. So please keep an eye out for these icons, and if any of your candidates have them, communicate that to your search committee. So important items like visa sponsorship or veteran candidates who must be interviewed are not missed. I also wanted to talk about our process surrounding moving candidates to a to be interviewed status. What used to be the pool certification process is now pool review. When you move your candidates to a to be interviewed status in PageUp, your talent acquisition specialist will review your pool of candidates and help you identify considerations for things like visa sponsorship, veterans preference, and remote work. The biggest change here for you from our previous process is that you're free to schedule interviews immediately and do not need to wait for a message from HR to do so. All right, I realize I've gone a couple of slides without pausing for questions. Does anyone have any questions before we move into step 5?
Don't see any in the chat, Andrea, but if anyone wants to unmute, feel free to do so. I think you're good to go, Andrea.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. All right, so again, heading into step 5, I'm going to do a quick overview of the steps for confirming your selection, but then we'll take a deeper dive into some of these items as this part of the presentation. So once you've conducted interviews and identified a final candidate, your team's next step will be to conduct reference checks. Reference checks are required before making a verbal offer. If your department would like to call candidates reference check contacts, please move your finalists to a verbal reference check status in PageUp and use the reference check form linked in this presentation to complete the checks. Alternatively, if your team would prefer for the reference check form to be sent out from PageUp to the references directly, move your finalist into a reference check status in PageUp to send the reference check form to the candidate's references via email. Once positive reference checks have been received, your department is welcome to proceed with a verbal offer. We wanted to note that the HR compensation team must approve any exceptions to the hiring range. So reach out to one of your talent acquisition specialists or one of us, your talent acquisition specialist, if that's something that your department would like to discuss. If your finalist accepts a verbal offer, your next step is going to be to create an offer card in PageUp. HR will be prompted to initiate the candidate's background check and degree verification as part of the offer card process. I'll touch on creating the offer card a little later on, but once it's approved in PageUp, an electronic written offer will be extended to your final candidate. And I wanted to just quickly circle back to reference checks and show the actual message that the reference contacts receive if you opt to send out the reference checks through PageUp. When they click on the link in the message, they're taken to our online reference check form, which will record their responses to store in PageUp for your review. Alrighty, so in taking a closer look at the verbal offer process, we wanted to note that offers start in the department and are usually extended by the supervisor. Verbal offers are always contingent on satisfactory background check and reference checks, and verbal offers must always contain an agreed upon wage and start date. So when setting your start date, keep in mind that any internal current Boise State employees must always start their new position on a pay period begin date. This is always going to be on a Sunday, and it's especially important for student employees who are moving into a staff position. The start date for their staff position must fall on a pay period begin date, regardless of when they're separated from their student appointment. For external hires, it's best practice to start their start date 2 weeks from the time of the verbal offer. Alrighty, so hopefully your final candidate has accepted the verbal offer, and so the next step will be to create an offer card in PageUp. The job aid to create an offer card is linked in this slide, but I wanted to touch on a few essential items on the offer card. So image number 1 on this slide shows the current or previous employee details field. If your final candidate is a current Boise State employee or has worked here within the last year, you can search for them and link them in this field. If they worked here previously, but it was more than a year ago, you won't be able to find them and link them in PageUp, but don't worry, that's not going to cause any problems. Image number 2 on this slide shows the job code. Please ensure that the appropriate job code for the position is selected. Image number 3 on the slide focuses on the position details. Some of this information is going to transfer over from the requisition that you created when you initiated the recruitment, but you'll want to ensure items like hours per week and months per year are still correct. In image number 4, I wanted to call attention to the action type. It's important that the action type is correct so that your hire processes correctly. The most common types are hire, original appointment, for instances when it's someone's very first time working at Boise State. However, there are many options in this field, so if you're unsure of what to enter, you're welcome to reach out to your talent acquisition specialist for guidance. Image number 5 shows the pay information for your new hire. For the salary field, you'll want to make sure that hourly is selected if it's a classified employee, or that salary is selected if it's a professional employee. And when entering your annual salary, you'll want to make sure that it's rounded to the nearest penny. So if it's a full-time position, you can find this number by multiplying the hourly rate by 2,080. And we've made it to our final image on this slide, number 6, which shows the onboarding details section of the offer card. So fun fact, you're going to need to select the ID BSU new hire form every single time for every single hire, even for current employees, so that this information we have on file for them can be updated if needed. For onboarding workflow, you'll want to select new employee if they are a brand new professional employee or rehire, or new classified employee. The new classified employee option is a new workflow that sends a reminder to the supervisor to complete the new employee's classified probation evaluation per state rules. And then the onboarding delegate is a place where you can enter the name of someone in your department to receive notifications from PageUp about your new hire's onboarding. The supervisor will already be notified, but I also see some DRCs enter their own name in here. So we wanted to offer a sneak peek to everyone on this call about some required faculty position details that will be coming soon. So this change has not occurred yet, but this update is going to be coming to PageUp to the offer card by the end of this year. As part of a joint initiative between the Office of the Provost and Human Resources, the 5 fields circled in blue on this slide will soon be required to be filled out for all hires. This is part of a larger effort to streamline processes and to capture faculty data and improve data accuracy. Making these fields required will assist in our efforts to get this essential faculty information at the point of hire. You're probably wondering, why does this have to be filled out for non-faculty positions like our professional and classified staff? And this is because we only have one offer card for all benefit eligible hires. The good news is that for all professional and classified staff hires, it's going to be really quick and easy to complete these fields. Each of these fields has a corresponding drop-down box, and at the top, there's going to be an NA option for you to select for any and all staff hires. You're going to receive more communication about this change as it goes into effect, along with updated job aids to guide you through filling out these fields. It's anticipated that this change should go into effect in November or December of this year. Alrighty, and I am sure everyone on this call is tired of hearing about the offer card, but there is one more section, the approval workflow, and it's so important that it gets its very own slide in the training. When you select an approval workflow, there are different options for standard hires, grant-funded positions, or faculty, depending on what type of position you're filling. This image is an example of the standard offer approval workflow. So the first approver is always going to be employment HR. This is auto-filled by the system. When the requisition is saved, the offer card is automatically sent to our background check team to complete a criminal history check and degree verification. After that will be a talent acquisition field. So you can just enter the name of your talent acquisition specialist here. And when it gets to us, we'll draft an offer letter for your candidate. In the next field, you'll always enter the position supervisor, and in the following field, the fund source manager. And after that, there may be different fields like a principal investigator field for grant-funded position or a provost approver field for faculty positions. But the final approval for every workflow will always be your talent acquisition specialist again. We're listed in the workflow a second time so that we can extend the written offer to your candidate after approvals are complete. So once you've entered the names of your approvers in the approval workflow, you'll want to select the blue Save button and save the offer card and route it for approval. Alrighty, so Boise State conducts background checks through a third-party vendor called HireRight. And I know that we're in PageUp training today, but I wanted to throw out a quick reminder that background checks are required for all hires, including temporary employees, not just those hired through PageUp. But back to our current state, employment HR is always that first approver in your approval workflow on the offer card, which ensures that all candidates hired through PageUp receive a background check, or we verify if they already have one on file. So for right now, candidates will receive an email from HireRight prompting them to complete an online consent form and submit their personal information if they do need to have a new background check completed. A degree verification will also be completed if it's required for the position and if a candidate indicates that they have a degree. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren to take you through the rest of the process.
Thank you, Andrea. So you've reached the end of the recruitment process. You found your candidate and you are ready to extend them an offer and close the requisition. As a reminder, when recruiting for a classified position, you must disposition the candidates in the pool into a final status prior to finalizing your hire as per the state of Idaho guidelines. While you are waiting on the acceptance of your offer, there's a few things you can do. You can gather and upload your recruitment documents. That includes any rating or rubrics forms that you used, classified candidate dispositions, interview notes, reference checks forms, or letters of recommendation. Then you will also want to send out communication to any candidate that's in the pool that was not selected for an interview or interviewed and not selected. I'll touch on that a bit more in a few slides. You can also take a look at our onboarding new hire checklist to prepare for your new hire to start at Boise State. So here's a quick overview on how to upload these recruitment documents. Right within the requisition in PageUp, you will see a Documents tab. From the selection drop-down menu, you will click Document from a File, and this is where you will upload all of these documents we've discussed. You can also send these items to your TA, and we can upload them for you. Now we will review the onboarding process. So after the background check is cleared and the candidate has accepted their offer, we will move them to the status hired/onboarding, which is circled here on the right. This will kickstart a series of emails sent out to your employee, welcoming them to Boise State and giving them access to their onboarding portal, where they will be prompted to complete onboarding tasks and paperwork in accordance with their start date. After we move them to this status, the hiring manager will also receive email notifications about their new hire's onboarding progress. It will give them information about our new employee resources and best practices for starting out their employee for their first few weeks and up until their first year. And this graphic below is just an overview of final offer steps from verbal to written offer, the background check, extending the offer, and then moving them to hired/onboarding. So now that you have selected your candidate for this role, it is time to release the rest of the applicants from the pool. When candidates first enter the pool, they come in as the status search committee review. But now you will want to move them to a final status such as search committee review unsuccessful, not selected, or interview unsuccessful, whichever best corresponds to when in the process they were not selected. Moving them to a final status will automatically generate an email letting them know that they were not selected. PageUp will show you a preview of this email and give you the opportunity to personalize it. When you click Next, the template is then sent out to the candidate. A best practice to consider is to reach out to the candidates you interviewed personally, whether it is an email or a phone call, just to let them know that they were not selected. It's really important to consider the candidate experience because you never know when you might have another search where you consider that same candidate or they may be hired to another area on campus. And if you have already notified your candidate and not changed their status in PageUp, please let us know so they do not receive duplicate rejection notifications, or you can choose to send out the not to send out the email through PageUp if you have already reached out to them. Now that you've reached the end of the recruitment process, your talent acquisition specialist is the only person that can close out the requisition in PageUp. So even if you've been through this process dozens of times, I'm sure you all get this question from hiring managers or leadership frequently. So here's a really general timeline of the search process. This can vary based on how difficult it is to fill the position, if we're using any additional resources like a recruiter to do some targeted sourcing, or the availability of the search committee participants. However, generally, let's say you did need to start with a position action request form. You have a new position and you are working with budget to get that PCN, you will want to allow yourself approximately 2 weeks for this process. When you get to submitting the requisition and then posting the job, this will take anywhere from 2 weeks to up to 30 days, depending on how long you want the role posted for and how difficult it is to fill. Next, you want to give yourself a week to review candidates and set interview time slots with your search committee ahead of time. The interview process itself will last for a couple of weeks. And then once you find your candidate, you will want to allot some time to extend the verbal offer and complete reference checks. For the start date, we recommend a minimum of 2 weeks from the offer date. Then, once the offer is accepted, your new employee file will get loaded into Bronco Hub and their ID and email are generated. And this will take anywhere from 3 to 5 days. If they have never worked at Boise State before, your new hire's email and username will be generated with the name listed on their social security card, as they will indicate when they fill out their new hire form after they accept their offer. If they have worked here before, they may be generated into the system under the name they went by when they were first employed here. And if for some reason their email or username needs to be changed, you can reach out to the OIT help desk to initiate this process. So here are some of our frequently asked questions to start us out, and then we will take any additional questions that you have after this. So how can I review applicant materials outside of PageUp? To compile a PDF for you or your search committee to review that will contain applicant materials, you can go into the requisition in PageUp, access the applicant pool, select the candidates, and choose the bulk move and compile action. It will prompt you to select the documents you would like to include in your PDF. And then once you've made your selection, you can click Create PDF. You can choose to download or send out the document from there. And we've also included the job aid for how to do so in our presentation. What happens when a search fails? So you have a few options if your search fails. Would you like to repost it, close it out? Candidates do get notified if we are canceling the position, and we have a special email for that we can send out. Potentially, we need to revisit the job description. We might not have crafted the right job posting that would attract the candidates you're looking for. We might need to promote the job further. You can always reach out to your talent acquisition specialist to discuss what the best course of action is for you. And then lastly, what are the beginning steps for creating a faculty requisition? Most of the initial steps that we outlined in this presentation will also apply to faculty requisitions, but we do have a faculty recruitment team, which is Andrea Burton and Kristen Martin, who is our strategic recruiter for our faculty positions. You will want to have Kristen listed as your talent acquisition specialist on any faculty recruitment that you have, and she can guide you through those steps.
Sweet. Thank you, Lauren and Andrea. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask them, type them in the chat. I'll give you guys just a sec here, sec of awkward silence as we give you guys a chance to type away or unmute to ask any questions. Alrighty. If not, that pretty much concludes our presentation. Here are some additional resources for you guys, such as the A to Z index, Bronco Hub training portal, job aids, our talent acquisition / recruiting homepage, the search committee training, hiring instructions, payroll calendar, and benefits related items. Upcoming fundamental trainings, adjunct and LOAs will be done on Wednesday, November 13th at 2 p.m. This is the link to sign up for it if you are interested. Let's see here. Question came in here. You mentioned that HR has a template for a rubric for evaluating candidates. Yes, Maddie, we just send me an email in regards to that, and I will send you a basic template for that. Thank you, Emily. Thank you. And that is it. If you have no more questions, the TA's specialist will stick around if you have any questions. But if you have no further questions, you guys are released for today. I hope you have a great rest of your week and